Good morning and assalamualaikum everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us for this meaningful session. Have you ever imagined turning on the tap only to find there is no clean water? Or walking over a kilometer down a steep slope just to collect untreated river water every single day? Unfortunately, this is not fiction. It is the daily reality for many rural Malaysians, especially in Sabah, Sarawak, and among orang asli communities. We are all concerned about the issue of access to clean water, especially in undeserved communities. So today, you are with me, Professor Alisa Jasmine from Environmental and Community Development Studies to discuss this urgent matter with our distinguished panelists. Our panel discussion is entitled Access to Clean Water in Rural Areas Turning Crisis into Opportunity for Malaysia. Ladies and gentlemen, do you know that although 71% of the earth is covered in water, access to safe, treated, and sustainable water is still a privilege, not a right. In many rural areas, this issue affects health, education, economic growth, and also social development. Together with my fellow panelists, we will explore the root causes of water inaccessibility in rural Malaysia, the impacts of inadequate clean water, solutions and innovations that address this issue, and finally, the importance of community involvement and sustainability. All right, now that we've set the stage for today's discussion, it's time to meet our wonderful panelists, and each of them bringing their own unique expertise and perspective to the table. Now, let's begin with someone known for her warmth and charisma. Our first panelist, Dr. Nur Fatiha, a respected lecturer in civil engineering at the Faculty of Engineering. Dr. Fatiha, how are you today?
Thank you so much for the kind introduction, Prof. Alisa. I'm doing well and I'm truly honored to be here today. It's always a pleasure to join a discussion that go beyond the classroom and into real world impact, especially on a topic as urgent and meaningful as access to clean water in rural Malaysia. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the lovely introduction, Dr. Fatiha. We are honored to have you with us today. Next, we have our second panelist, Ms. Atika, a dedicated public health officer who's been directly involved in addressing water-related health challenges in our communities. Ms. Atika, how are you today? And how do you feel about this topic that we'll be diving into?
I'm doing well, thank you, Miss Moderator Prof. Alisa. I'm very grateful to be here today. As a public health officer, I've witnessed how the water access not only about availability, but is directly tied to health, well-being, and resilience of our communities. Thank you for having me today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Miss Atika, for sharing your thoughts. We are looking forward to hearing more from your experience. Now, let's welcome our third panelist, the cool and composed engineer Izati, an environmental engineer from Industrial Water Engineers, Sendirian Berhad, with hands-on experience in rural water solutions, and we know she has plenty to share. Engineer Izati, how are you feeling? Ready to share your insights with us today?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm really looking forward to this discussion today. And as an environmental engineer, I've had the opportunity to observe and work closely with the communities in rural areas. And one thing I've learned is that sometimes the simplest ideas, if designed well, can lead to the biggest impact. Thank you.
Great. You look so ready and your energy is contagious. We are excited to hear what you have to say later. And last but definitely not least, let me introduce our fourth panelist, Nur Hidayah, a passionate student researcher currently pursuing her Bachelor of Science with honors in environmental science. She focuses on community-driven solutions for water access, something very close to the heart of our topic for today. Nur Hidayah, welcome. And how are you feeling about being part of today's panel?
Thank you, Miss Moderator. I am excited to be part of this discussion today. So, through my research, I have come to understand that water access isn't just about infrastructure, It's also about people and how we involve them. Some of the most sustainable changes happen when communities are part of the solution, not just the receivers.
Fantastic. Your passion really shines through. It's always refreshing to hear perspectives from rising researchers like yourself. So, now that we've met our amazing panelists, let's not waste another moment. Let's dive straight into the heart of today's discussion. Access to clean water refers to the availability of safe, treated water for drinking, cooking, washing, and sanitation. It means water that is free from harmful contaminants such as bacteria, chemicals, or waste, and is readily available and reliable. In many rural areas, especially in countries like Malaysia, this access is often limited or inconsistent. Many rural communities, including those in Sabah, Sarawak, and Orang Asli villages, still depend on rivers, rainwater, or shallow wells, which may not be safe for consumption. So, without further ado, let's welcome our first panelist, Dr. Fartiha. Could you explain the root causes of clean water inaccessibility in rural Malaysia? The floor is yours.
Thank you, moderator Professor Alisa. Okay, let's begin. Access to clean water is not just a necessity. It is a basic human right and the backbone of public health, economic development, and also environmental sustainability. However, in Malaysia, especially in rural communities, this fundamental right is still out of reach for many. Thousands of villages in places like Sarawak and Sabah face persistent difficulties in accessing clean and safe water. So, this issue is not merely about the installing water system. It is a multi-layered challenge rooted in geographic, environmental, and infrastructural barriers that need urgent and strategic attention. Let me elaborate on the core geographic and environmental barriers. Okay, first and foremost, it is remote village locations. Many villages in Sabah and Sarawak are sorry, are situated in deep within hilly and forested regions, often without proper road access. This geographical isolation creates immediate physical barriers for any infrastructure work. Next one is logistical challenges. Delivering materials like pipes or water tanks requires significant time, manpower, and also cost. So, the lack of road infrastructure makes transporting construction equipment not only logistically difficult but also extremely expensive. And the most importantly, the cost of building water system in these areas is several times higher compared to urban locations. In fact, because of these challenges, some villages are forced to wait years or even decades for a functioning clean water system to be installed. To conclude this, these barriers are deeply entrenched and go beyond technical fixes. They require a complete rethinking of infrastructure planning, considering local terrains, remoteness, and also accessibility. To summarize it, the inaccessibility of clean water in rural Malaysia is not just a technical issue. It is a result of systemic, deep-rooted environmental and also geographic challenges. So according to my reference, research by Tuah et al. Published in 2022, solving these problems demands localized planning that reflect the terrain and remoteness of each area, tailored infrastructure solution suit to each village condition, and most importantly, strong coordination between government agencies like JKR, EPU, and also MIPD. Without confronting these realities on the ground, rural nation will continue to face delays and inequality in accessing one of the most essential human needs, which is clean and safe water. Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Fatiha. I really appreciated your perspective just now. I was wondering, in your opinion, what could be the long-term consequences if these barriers are not properly addressed? Thank you.
Good question, Engineer Izzati. Thank you for asking that. So the consequences are dire. Public health risks, reduced economic opportunities, and also social inequality. Clean water is essential for agriculture, education, and daily living. If it left unchecked, it will only widen the rural-urban divide. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fatiha, for such a clear and insightful breakdown. What stood out most to me was how you emphasized that this is not simply about installing pipes or tanks, it's about understanding the terrain, the remoteness, and the complex logistics that come with reaching these rural communities. Your explanations reminds us that rural clean water issues are not just technical problems, they are systemic and deeply rooted in planning, infrastructure, and access. And as you said, without localized and large strategic coordination from key agencies like JKR and EPU, this inequality will persist. And now that we understand where the problem begins, let's turn to its consequences. Next, we now turn to our second panelist, Ms. Atika. Please share your thoughts on this issue. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Ms. Moderator, Prof. Alisa. We talk about clean water access. We often picture pipes and infrastructure, but we mustn't forget that inadequate access to clean water has real human consequences. Today, I want to highlight three core impacts that we continue to observe in Malaysia, which is a growing public health crisis, widespread water disruption, and economic as well as social inconvenience. Inadequate access to clean and safe drinking water pose a significant public health crisis in Malaysia. When water sources become contaminated, often due to untreated industrial waste or sewage, communities are exposed to infectious diseases like cholera and typhoid. Polluted river leads to severe decline in water quality. In low-income or densely populated areas where alternatives are limited, families are forced to consume unsafe water. This results in rising hospital admission and a greater burden in healthcare systems, especially in rural clinics that are already under-resourced. Secondly, we must consider the operational disruption caused by polluted water. Ms. Hidayah, have there been any major water pollution cases in Malaysia that really highlight how serious this issue is?
Thank you, Miss Atika. I believe there has been a pollution in Sungai River and River Semenyih and Selangor River.
Thank you, Ms. Hidayah. That is correct. When incident like the pollution of Sungai Semenyih or Sungai Selangor occur, it leads to large-scale water cuts that affecting hundreds of thousands of people. This incident has left entire communities without water for days. Businesses, schools, and hospitals cannot function properly without water. This is affecting productivity, patient care, and daily hygiene practices. For wage earners and small businesses, this disruption are more than just an inconvenience. It's also a direct loss of income and opportunity. The third impact is both economic and social. Treating polluted water requires advanced and costly technologies, which increases pressure on both water treatment authorities and everyday consumers. Polluted rivers are expensive to rehabilitate and maintain. These costs often trickle down to households in form of higher water tariffs. While residents are forced to rely on emergency water supplies like water tankers, which create long queues, supply limitation, and often fuel social tensions. It becomes a burden that widens inequality and disrupt community harmony.
Thank you, Miss Atika. May I ask a question? Based on what you have shared, who do you believe faces the greatest risk or burden when clean water is unavailable?
Thank you for the question, Ms. Hidayah. That's a very important one. From my experience, the group that face the greatest risk are children, the elderly, and low-income families. As for the children, they are particularly vulnerable to diarrhea and dehydrations. The elderly often have pre-existing health conditions that can worsen with poor water quality. And for low-income households, the inability to afford alternatives like bottled water or private filtration system means they are left exposed. They often bear the full weight of crisis, not just physically, but emotionally and financially. In the end, the issue of water access is about more than just steps and treatment plants. It's about public health, dignity, and fairness. Everyone deserves the right to safe, clean water, and the impact of not having it goes far beyond inconvenience. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Atika, for that eye-opening explanation. I believe that clean water issue is not just about the infrastructure, it's about the to human lives, from rising health risks to school closures and income loss. The consequences ripple through entire communities, and it's clear that when clean water is disrupted, everything else suffers: health, education, and even national productivity. And now we'd like to invite our third panelist who specializes in sustainable water solutions, Engineer Izati. Could you share some practical and affordable innovations that are already helping improve rural water access? So, Engineer Izati, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ms. Moderator, Prof. Alisa. When real water access comes up, many assume it takes large-scale infrastructure and hefty budgets to make a difference. But surprisingly, some of the most effective and affordable solutions are already being tried right here in Malaysia, and they are working. Today, I'd like to share three practical innovations that I believe are game changers, which are riverbank filtration, household filtration systems, and low-energy micro hydropower. So let's dive into the first one, which is riverbank filtration, or RBF. This is a natural water treatment method where river water flows through the ground, specifically through layers of sand, soil, and gravel, before it's collected in a well or a pipe nearby. The soil acts as a natural filter by removing dirt, bacteria, or certain chemicals like iron or ammonia, depending on the soil composition. What makes RBF so practical is that it's low cost, requires no added chemicals, and works well in areas close to rivers. It doesn't need complex technology, just smart use of nature. And a 2025 local study by Momo Arifin and his team demonstrated that RBF was effective in the Langat River Basin, and it not only improved water quality, but also reduced the overall cost of treatment. So this method is not just environmentally friendly, but it's already tested and proven here in Malaysia. Now, the second one is household filtration systems. These are typically two-layer filters that use simple materials like sand to remove physical particles and activated carbon to absorb odors, chlorine, and harmful chemicals. What's great about these systems is how accessible they are. While in many rural areas where pipe water is limited or contaminated, these filters allow families to treat water on their own right at home. They are cheap, easy to maintain and assemble, and don't need electricity. They also don't rely on external infrastructure, which is a big plus. And most importantly, they help reduce health risks like diarrhea, skin infections, and other waterborne diseases, especially among children and the elderly who are the most vulnerable. It's a simple but powerful way to make sure clean water is available, even in the most remote communities. Finally, this one's very exciting, which is micro hydropower systems. This method uses the natural flow of water, usually from a small stream, waterfall, or hillside river, to generate electricity, and at the same time help move water to where it's needed. Unlike large dams, micro hydropower systems are small scale, less invasive, and perfectly suited for remote villages located near water sources. What makes this solution so powerful is that it's renewable and fuel-free. It doesn't require diesel, gas, or constant refueling, just a steady flow of water and simple turbine technology. So once it's installed, it runs with minimal maintenance. Even more impressive is the dual benefit, whereby not only does it supply water for daily use, but it can also provide basic electricity for lighting, charging, or even powering small appliances. And this is a big step forward for rural development because it improves both the quality of life and economic opportunities in those areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Izati, and that is amazing. But I actually have another question for you. Are all this you explained applicable here in Malaysia?
Yes, that's a key point. They have already been tested locally, and these are the important ideas because they were designed for our context. What makes them powerful is that they are low cost, easy to maintain, and built using local resources. So instead of waiting for big projects, rural communities can start benefiting from these small but smart solutions now. And if I may share my final thoughts, clean water is more than just a technical issue. It's about health, dignity, and fairness. And with the right innovations and a community-focused mindset, we can ensure that every Malaysian, no matter where they live, has access to safe and reliable water. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Engineer Zati, for sharing those impressive yet practical innovations. That's truly encouraging to see that effective solutions don't always require massive budgets, but sometimes it's about using smart local approaches that are already available and adaptable. From riverbank filtration to household filters and micro hydro systems, These solutions are affordable, proven, and already working right here in Malaysia. And it's encouraging to know that with the right tools and approach, even small communities can gain clean water access and even electricity. Though through sustainable means, now that the most brilliant technology will allow even the people behind it. And that brings us to our final speaker, Ms. Hidayah. Could you explain why community participation is essential to make rural water projects sustainable? The floor is yours.
Thank you, Ms. Moderator, Professor Alisa Jasmine. So many water projects in rural Malaysia start strong but fell over time. Why? Because they are often designed and installed by outside parties without community involvement. This top-down approach might deliver short-term success, but it often lacks long-term sustainability. So today, I would like to talk about ways involving local communities can create clean water systems that actually last not just for months but for years. Firstly, when local people are included in planning and managing their own water supply systems, they develop a strong sense of ownership. This feeling of ownership leads to greater responsibility. People become more motivated to take care of the system, to report damage early, and to use water more carefully because they see it as their system, not the government's. Secondly, local knowledge matters. Community members understand the local geography, climate, and lifestyle better than the outside engineers. Their input helps to ensure that the system is not technically sound, but also practically and culturally appropriate. For example, they might suggest building storage tanks that match the monsoon season patterns or piping system that suit the terrain. Thirdly, when villagers are trained in basic maintenance or water treatment, they become more self reliant. They no longer have to wait weeks for a technician to travel from a distant city just to fix a pipe or clean a tank. With the right skills and tools, they can address small problems immediately, keeping the system working and preventing bigger breakdowns. And finally, involving the community in decision making builds trust and cooperation. When people are listened to, they are more likely to support the system, follow rules, and encourage others to do the same. This kind of collective responsibility is what keeps water system working, not just a few months, but for many years. We have real proof of this. So a study by Amira Abdin et al. Published in 2021 on Pulau Sebatik, which located in Sabah, showed that the water system fell quickly when villagers weren't involved. But in areas with community involvement and training, system last longer. Local water committees also improve maintenance, cooperation, and resident satisfaction.
All right. So before we move on, I'd like to open the floor briefly to our do any of our panelists have a response or questions they'd like to pose to what has just been shared just now?
I'm sorry, but can I ask Hidayah a question? Could relying too much on the community lead to problems? Shouldn't the government still lead? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Yes, it can be risky to leave everything to the community. Some water issues need experts, tool, and funding that the rural communities may not have. That's why both the community and external support are needed. The community can manage daily tasks, while the government or NGOs handle bigger problems. Working together is the best way to ensure a stable and lasting water supply. Okay, to wrap up, clean water is not just about pipes and tanks. It's about people. When we empower communities with skills, support, and voice in decisions, we give them the tools to protect their own water systems for the future. Let's move from doing things for communities to doing things with them. That's the heart of sustainability. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Hidayah, for that powerful and meaningful conclusion to our panel. What really stood out was your reminder, and sustainability is not just about building systems, it's about building people's capacity to maintain and protect them. You've shown us that the community participation leads to ownership, trust, and long term success. When people are involved in the decisions and trained to manage their water system, the solutions don't just last, but they thrive. And now, with all four aspects discussed, from root causes to solutions and community roles, it's time to wrap up our discussion with a final reflection. So, today we've learned that firstly, the lack of clean water in rural Malaysia stems largely from geographic challenges and limited infrastructure. Secondly, we've seen how this issue leads to serious consequences from health crises and to social disruptions and also economic setbacks. However, there are solutions, whether through small scale engineering, community engagement, and policy reform. The key is ensuring that these solutions are inclusive and sustainable. Most importantly, we've learned that sustainability doesn't depend solely on systems. It begins with people and it thrives through collective actions. And indeed, as we discussed, the clean water is not just about pipes and pumps, it's about access, equity, and above all, action. So, as students, citizens, and also future leaders, we have a role to play, whether by raising awareness, supporting local efforts, or simply educating those around us. Every step counts. And with that, I would like to sincerely thank our brilliant panelists for sharing their valuable insights, and to all of you for being part of these meaningful sessions. And this is Alisa Jasmine signing off as your moderator. Assalamualaikum and thank you everyone.